From Tally to Cali.
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up! Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy. The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Fancy seeing all you folks here live on a Wednesday night. Thanks for being here. It is Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy. That over there, Corey Clark, senior writer for Warchant.com. I'm Aslan Hajavandi, director of digital media for Warchant.com. As always, Wake Up Warchant comes to you, presented by our friends over at Vitamin Energy, VitaminEnergy.com. What's that promo code, Corey? I know it's on the screen, but I can't. My glasses, I can't.
It's Warchant BOGO, Aslan. It's Warchant BOGO.
And if I buy one, I get one free, or some say two for the price of one?
Two for the price of one, or buy one, get one. However you want to phrase it in your own life. That's the deal. You buy one, you get the second one at no cost.
It's time, everybody. Give it a shot if you haven't done so already. That promo code will work for you.
I'm doing it right now.
I want to cheers to my comrades down in the Bay Area.
For sure.
All I've been doing is watching the Weather Channel all day today. My guy Dennis Phillips back home, ABC Action News. But I'm going to be in a good mood. I'm going to take my Vitamin Energy Mood Plus. Crack that boy open.
I got to wait on this guy.
All right, let's go.
I got my burner. I'm doing the burner.
Okay.
You don't look like this without doing a little bit of burner every now and again, Aslan. You know what I'm saying?
To you, Corey Clark, to our friends, everybody, hopefully safe and
please stay safe. I hope anybody watching this has gotten out of the way of wherever that storm ends up hitting.
Tastes so good once it hits your lips, everybody. Corey, all right. Open the gullet. Loving it. Oh, he goes for two. Oh, he's a two. I do that
the whole thing. I can't do it all in one shot. I do two of them. Strong man.
All right, we thank y'all for being here. Warchant.com, your ultimate Seminole sports source. Once you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, rate and review, all that good stuff. Everybody in the podcast that's listening to us on Thursday, thank you always for being here as well. Florida State wrapping up their media availability window for the bye week today, Corey. I guess it sounds like Mike says they're going to give them off until Saturday, so that's cool.
Okay.
2 whole days
they
get off. It's crazy how hard they work, these guys, but some might say they're not working them hard enough, Corey.
Not working them smart enough or well enough, apparently, because it's not whatever they're doing. It's not really working. Not formulating wins.
But I was thinking about this, Corey. I'm not like Mr. Youth Movement guy, but I was reading Ira's weekly column with George Henshaw, former Florida State coach, former NFL coordinator, father of Matt Henshaw, touchdown grabber against Florida in 2003 in the Swamp. Some say the original Matty Ice. Watching how they practice on this bye week, I guess it's kind of opened up a little bit of a lens into how they do things on their Sunday walkthrough, or some of the stuff they do earlier in the preseason camp where they have their, what do they call it?
Developmental.
They have like their developmental period, everybody. So for like the first 30 minutes, like yesterday, I was like, oh boy, I'm out there filming practice. I don't see Brock Glenn. Everybody's going to panic and be like, what's going on? But it turns out they pretty much just let the freshmen, underclassmen, backups, they're not freshmen. There's some sophomores. There's some, I think even maybe upperclassmen are out there during the developmental sessions or whatever. But you get to see like Luke and Trevor Jackson take a lot of reps. And you get to see Elijah Moore and Micaiah Danzy and Luane McCoy get a lot of reps. And reading the Henshaw's house part with Ira, which I don't know if I identify anybody that's a veteran that isn't giving full effort, but Coach Henshaw seems to think there's some of that going on. And you're at a point in the season where you're 6 games in. It's like, what's the point, man? Like, if you're not going to get it done, how are you going to change week 7 of a season? So just find people that want to do it. And just seeing the way that these guys kind of interact, the way they're out there executing, running around, the energy they bring. Like, I'm not opposed to seeing Brock go out there against Duke starting, and then it's Malik Chakai and maybe Luane. Maybe it's Chakai, Luane, and Elijah Moore. Not to take anything away from Malik Benson, but like I'm warming up to that. When a guy that's been in the trenches for so long thinks that there is maybe not proper level of know-how of the offense and how it needs to be executed in effort. I mean, this is the point where you've got enough runway to get guys ready to put them in situations like what they'll see Wallace Wade Stadium Friday night, Duke 7:30, ESPN 2.
It's fine. Play the young skill guys. I'm sure a couple of these guys can play. We'll see. They'll get a chance to prove themselves. Again, I'm more worried about what you have in the trenches. You talked about the trenches. In the trenches, And how many of those young guys are going to play? Any? Especially on the offensive line, but really the defensive line. Who's a young guy that's been playing on the defensive line? I mean, who? Anyone? Daniel Lyons, does he count? Isn't he a redshirt sophomore?
KJ Sampson, I feel like, was getting a little bit of burn, but not nearly enough to.
They have nobody. The youth movement is like, if they thought any of these guys, and again, it's harder to crack into that lineup because that's actually probably a defensive line that has NFL talent on it, at least. Maybe not playing like that right now, but they have NFL talent on it. But it would be nice to have literally any of the defensive linemen and defensive ends they recruited the last 2 years. Where are they?
Yeah.
They can't get on the field. Defensive tackles, KJ Sampson might be the only one. Like Daniel Lyons, I think he's shown some flashes. He might end up being a player, but again, it's hard to even call him young. He's been here. Maybe it's only his second year. I
think it's his third year.
Grades. I think it's his third year, but it could be a second. So if you're not playing any of those guys, the linebackers are all playing. The youth movement you wanted at linebacker, they're playing. They have to. Now that DJ Lundy's out for the year, it opens up even more playing time. The secondary, I think the young guys are getting on the field there. It's the offensive and defensive line, man. They don't have anybody that you're like, yep, that's a cornerstone of the next couple of years. They don't have anybody that's at least proven to be that yet.
Do you think that will be a position that's going to be a premium in the recruiting portal?
Defensive line?
Well, just guys on the defensive and offensive line.
Yes. Defensive line more so. At some point, you've got a million of them. Find 5 offensive linemen that you've recruited the last 3 years that you can line up and combine as an entity of 5 players and play. Play. Be at least average. The defensive line, I absolutely think, just because you haven't seen enough. I feel like Adam Fuller is, if they were good enough to play right now, if they were capable, maybe eventual high-level ACC type football players, they would be on the field right now for this 1-5 football team. So if they can't get on the field right now, I'm talking about the first and second year guys. It's hard to imagine. I'm talking about the defensive line. It's hard to imagine that they're going to be the cornerstones of the team in a year or two. They'll be starters, they'll be players, but maybe not great. The offensive line, who would know? Because it's the same guys that play every week. And it has been that way for 3 years. So I would like to see them actually develop some of their own offensive line recruits. And then on the defensive line, go get a couple of studs that you know are NFL players, because you have no idea if any of the guys on your team, save for the starting 4, if any of these guys are NFL players or even like honorable mention all ACC players. You have no idea. And you might not have any, which is too bad.
Daniel Aviles, he's in Bradenton.
Come on, Daniel. Good luck, man. Good luck, buddy. And I'm not saying that patronizing. Good luck. Batten down the hatches. I hope you probably not going to keep power, but I hope you do, and I hope you avoid any catastrophe to your home and property. Wild man.
We don't endorse that. Although I got native Floridian in me, so kind of do have the hunkering kind. But hey, I left Tallahassee, so I'm not gonna talk smack about anybody. Speaking about the trenches, Corey, Brad King says, where's the offensive line? Alex Atkins has guys that have been in the program with him for years, and these new highly brought in portal guys, but none of them not only can not block, but can't understand his scheme. That was like doubly frustrating, right? When you see guys that have been here for so long with like puzzled expressions after a negative play, kind of like, I thought it was you.
Yeah.
At least like the redeeming aspect of all this, you would think, is at the very least, they know everything inside and out of like blocking assignments. Maybe they're not physically gifted enough to pull as gracefully as Dylan Gibbons or Dimitri Emmanuel. But you've been here so friggin' long that you should be able to play maybe just a tick faster than the guy in front of you, because you know where you're supposed to go and where you're supposed to place your hand and what your first step needs to be. But they don't even have that down, which is just damning.
Yeah, look, man, he is in the he is definitely on the hot seat. There's no doubt about it. But not just because it's not reactionary. Again, I know they were 13-0 last year. This is an absolute abject failure where everybody's position is up for grabs. And that's what's so concerning is it's the older guys that he's had for 5 years that are doing it, and he hasn't had anybody break through. Like, he would rather play one of these 24-year-olds that's injured or slightly injured or banged up, because they're all banged up, than some second-year guy that either wasn't good enough to get here, they shouldn't have brought him here, they evaluated poorly on the front end, or they've developed him poorly on the back end. But he would rather play 23, 24-year-old guys that have had multiple surgeries and have played a ton of football and just aren't themselves clearly than any of the young guys. And so it goes to the very heart of the development. Who's getting developed? This is real. Like Aslan, who have they played? They've played early a little bit, right? And then they played Otto.
Estes too, if you want to count him, but he was class of 21, so I don't think that's really young.
Yeah, and he couldn't break through at all last year, even when they had some struggles, and they had to go get 2 more guards out of the portal because they didn't believe in the guys they had on the roster. And it's like, okay, man, well, at some point, it's not whoever's evaluating these guys in the portal, it's the developing of the guys that have been here for 2 or 3 years. Are they just not getting developed? Are they just not getting developed? And I think when you're averaging 58 rushing yards per game and you have one of the worst offenses in the country, save for UCLA, it is the worst, at least at this level, you can absolutely say they're not getting developed, and it is a huge issue.
All right, so not going to count 2020 against him because, again, just not the season, but recruiting. You got hired in December, and then it is what it is with the early signing period, which was like, what, the first? Maybe that was the first early signing period, 2020? Where they, either that or 19 was the first one. So first year on campus, they get Robert Scott, they get Thomas Schrader. I think Thomas Schrader either medical DQ'd or, transferred out. Robert Scott he'd give you like one game every month, seemingly. His body's just not responding well to the rigors of this sport at this level. Zane Herring, who's now at USF doing all right. Lloyd Willis panned out, didn't work out. That was your first season here on campus. You go to
like you said, you can give him a break.
Yeah. Then you go to 21. You get Rod Orr and Bryson Estes. Orr leaves, Estes hanging on by a thread. Then you go to this 22, and this is where you're like, oh boy. Armella early, Dodger Richardson gone, Quayshawn Sapp gone, Antavius Woody gone, Kanaya Charlton gone. I mean, you brought in Kane Lyles as a transfer, but we don't want to go down that road. I mean, just they did not really hit on anybody in that class, other than maybe Jalen Early at some point. And then last year you get Lucas Simmons, who doesn't seem to be any closer than he was a year ago to getting on the field, and Andre Otto, who might be a piece for it. Yeah, that's a well, again,
I think the damning part is that they feel they have to keep going to the portal, and it's like, well, if you were developing, it's not like those guys were one-star recruits that they wrestled away from FAU and UTEP. Like, some of those guys were 3-4-star guys, and all over the country there are 4-star and 3-star linemen that are doing better than this. And you have to feel the need to go into the portal every year because the guys you brought in, you have not been able to develop. So again, maybe they're just not good. That's probably the likelihood, right? They're just maybe not good enough to play here. But then again, then you screwed up on the evaluation part. And then if they are good enough, if they can go somewhere else and even be average at USF or, sort of good somewhere else, if they're still in football, well, then you screwed up on the developmental end. But either way, which of these guys has gotten better? Robert Scott is a tough one because he had to play too early. So did Maurice and Darius, by the way. And it's just a really hard sport. It's a grueling sport. I don't know that there's been a lineman that's played more snaps in the country the last 5 years than Maurice Smith. So that's a lot of wear and tear, man. So I'm not blaming them for maybe regressing, or even Atkins for them regressing that much, because their bodies just might beat up. I'm blaming him for not having any options other than the dudes that have been here for half a decade, even when it's this bad.
Why is it always default there? So in case you guys were wondering,
what's with the wording? Looks like it's in italics. The question.
No, it's the Warchant font. We can go back.
Okay, cool. I like it.
Go to something more traditional.
No, I like it like that.
Ooh,
No,
that's not
that's
traditional
not
at
good.
all.
No,
That's
they're
great.
just shouting at us.
Oh, that's not good either. All right, I'm going to stop. So we're going to stick with the Warchant font. I should pull up the blocking because I want to give a little bit of context here or whatever. So Maurice currently, I think, no, what a weird way they organize stuff on this website called PFF. But Zane Herring right now is grading out at 50.4 at USF. Bless
Great.
Harris is grading out at 56.2 at TCU. He graded out at 72.9 last year at Florida State. So, like, even the guys that have left you and have landed elsewhere, according to PFF, might not be shining bright either. So, so I guess that I don't know how much if that adds or helps out to the resume, because like, all right, you let these guys leave and they didn't work out, so at least you didn't miss on them. But it's like, all right, well, those are two other guys that you try to develop. I think Zane was kind of a Taggart recruiting holdover that they held on to, but yeah, it's bizarre. The regression is the bigger concern to me, Corey. I know you're talking about just there's no other options other than what you have. Because, like, Alex Axton's got asked about, like, what do you say to do you talk to a guy like Maurice when he has bad snaps? It's like, yeah, but what do you say to him? You're still going to be my starting center. I've got no other option. Like, you're.
Well, that's not what Alex said. That's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It sounded like you were saying that's what Alex said to us.
No. But like asking him that question, like, he's well aware of the mistakes that are going on, but like he's trotting out the guys that he continually thinks for whatever reason the best five at that moment. And it is that moment because there's guys constantly coming in and out. But to me, it's just the regression. Like how, I don't know, maybe you could say that Maurice hasn't gotten anywhere, but it feels like Maurice is almost taking a step back. It feels like Darius has taken a step back. I don't know if we can really say that for Jeremiah Byers because he's been banged up, but I was, hoping maybe he could take a step forward, but that was my one mulligan when we did our preseason capsule, when we talked about some things that maybe might not work out as well as we thought it was. I'm like, maybe Jeremiah Byers will be the weak link of this offensive line and that'll hold them back, but I'm not going to blame him for how this whole offensive line is. But that's the bummer, man. It hasn't been any progression. The regression has been the biggest bugaboo for me rather than not being able to develop Julian Armella by now, which is still not good.
Yeah.
All right. Moving along. Defense. People want to talk about defense. Shout out Brett Taylor. I wish Corey or Aslan. It's Corey with an E, Brett.
Come on, Brett. I wouldn't call you Brett with two T's.
Yeah.
Let's go, B-Dog.
I wish you guys would talk about Mafah's long run. The defense literally vacated the middle of the field. No one was blocked out of the gap he ran, and they just vacated on their own. This is true. I brought this up in our group text.
You did, like 30 minutes ago. Is Brett a friend of yours?
I don't know. Maybe he's... It's wild. Like both of, as he says, Brett, like both of your linebackers were, they're kind of like on the B gaps and they both ran to the perimeter as though it was going to be an off tackle run. And then your safety sweeps out even further and it just opened. I mean, we all could have ran for at least 20 yards on that 65-yard gain or whatever it was, or 59-yard gain.
Yeah, we would have been hawked down quicker.
Yes.
We would have been hawked, but he got hawked down too. But we would have got, I think you and I are both, that's probably a 35-yard run?
I'll say 25. I'll be a little more modest.
I mean, there's nobody there, and I'm not saying because we're great athletes, clearly. I'm saying it because, as Brett with one T points out, there's nobody there.
There isn't.
There's nobody there. It wasn't as if they ran some confusing-looking play or the only thing I can think is there's no way this is true, that out of that formation, they had watched enough film to realize they never run it up the middle. It's always something wide, where in this particular set. But I don't even remember what the set was. I assume it's just Mafah in the backfield with the quarterback. I don't know if they were doing something tricky on the outsides with the wide receivers that was a giveaway that they're going to be doing something wide to the wide side of the field, and they just tricked the Florida State defense. But that's not an excuse either, because once you see the play develop, have some common sense. So, yeah, I don't know what the wide receivers are doing out. You got a tight end in motion. So, yeah, can you play that?
For like 5 seconds.
Okay.
So, yeah, like, your linebacker is outside the box.
Yeah.
Your other linebacker's lost in the wash. Either the center or the guards made it up to the second level to get him blocked. And then poor KJ Kirkland, I don't know what he sees, man, but he does not.
The only thing I think he sees is that guy coming in motion before the play, thinking that it must be coming to my side of the field and it's going to go wide. But it's preposterous.
Just look at the linebackers. All right. Can we all identify the linebackers in this video? Unfortunately, I can't like signal anything.
Call out the mic. Aslan, call out the mic. Be Klubnik right here.
All right. So there's one.
Yeah.
And there's the other linebacker. And then up here is your
can we even see who they are? I can't read the numbers.
Yeah. So this is my guy Cam Riley.
Okay.
This is Justin Cryer.
Okay.
That's KJ Kirkland.
Yeah. All right. Got it. KJ Kirkland's already moving down because he sees the guy coming in motion. Okay. Got it.
And then
so Cryer,
Cam Riley's out here.
That the Riley one is insane because if maybe Kirkland's doing the right thing, man. Like Riley's job on that play is to try to stay in the middle of the field. Kirkland's got outside leverage, right? Or Kirkland was supposed to come inside and Riley was supposed to have outside leverage. But either way, there's no way both of those guys are supposed to be running to that side of the field. On that, there's just no, like Cryer gets, kind of swallowed up by a 310-pound offensive lineman. I would have liked him to avoid it better. But I mean, if Cryer gets around and gets to the middle around that guard, well, then Mafah just cuts to the right, and it's not a 60-yard run, but there's nobody there either. But holy moly, just giving up the middle of the field like that. Yeah, Brett, as you can tell, it's very frustrating. We did notice it. We have talked about it. We haven't brought up the schematic mess that this is as a defense, because it's like, who do you blame? Do you blame the defensive lineman for getting pushed out of the way?
The tight end's coming in motion over here, bringing stool. So he comes in motion over here.
Yeah.
And then Marvin, or at this, I don't know if it's Marvin or Pat, but they get him. So they got a hat on a hat with him. You feel like that would mean that Riley would spill into the inside here, trigger down the middle.
Yes.
But he ends up going outside.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to act like I know anything about anything, but
this did come up.
This did come up in the group chat, Brett.
Yep.
Literally, I was thinking about it as I was watching the game. I'm like, what's going to happen here is the Florida State's defense is going to allow a big play, and then everything's going to turn to this defense sucks when you need them the most. They can't deliver for you. When you start off the 17-0 hole, you turn the ball over, you're dropping the ball, you can't run the football. I don't want to give the defense a pass, but I'm like, this one play is one play is going to happen that's just going to crystallize all the angst and be like, all right, we need to still keep another jaundice eye on the defense. But
man, so I just wrote a story. It'll be on the site, I think tonight at some point. But we've given a lot of negative attention to the other side of the ball, and with good reason, because it's, like I've said ad nauseum, it's the worst we've ever seen. Legitimately, at this school, it's the worst we've ever seen through 6 games. The defense is bad enough that everything I've said about the offense, you got to do something. You can't stand pat. You can't stay. You've got to make a change or multiple changes, and I'm talking about bringing in a whole new staff if you have to, because it's really bad. It's not historically bad, but it's close. Aslan, if the offense was having a normal Florida State offense year, Adam Fuller would be the guy that everybody's screaming about, because what his defense has done through 6 games is abysmal by any measure. They're 81st in scoring defense, 102nd in total defense, 109th in rushing defense, 117 in third down defense, and they're 121st in turnovers created. They've created 3 turnovers in 6 games. And not only that, because I pointed this out to Aslan and Ira, the only positive stat the Florida State defense has had through 6 games all year, and keep in mind, there are some NFL players on this roster. The only positive stat they've had is they're 25th in the country in red zone defense. They've also given up more red zone trips than any school in the country. They've given up 28 red zone trips. That is more than any school in the country. So when you want to talk about awful, gross, disgusting numbers, it's not quite as bad as what's on the other side of the ball, but it's bad enough that all their jobs are on the line because this is unacceptable and it's inexcusable. You have real talent, and it looks like you're playing in 2009 again. It just looks like you in year 5, those are what those numbers look like. And I know traditional stats aren't the same as yards per play. I can promise you they're not great in yards per play either. And the fact what's not on there, again, which is something you have to – it's incredible. No defense in the United States of America out of 133 teams has allowed the opponent to drive to the red zone more than your defense. That is an embarrassment on the level of being the worst rushing attack in the country. So it's all awful. And it doesn't help a defense when the offense is so bad and you have to keep coming out there. I saw Iowa survive for a decade. Why can't your defense rise up when your offense sucks? No, the defense is like, well, I guess we got to suck too. At least Mastromano doesn't have that attitude. Old Maestro is still doing Maestro things. Fitzgerald, we haven't even seen him in 3 weeks because they can't get close enough to kick a field goal. But yeah, so that's there's so much bad with this program right now, which I mean the record is the record. But there are real changes that have to come if this keeps up. Like at Florida State, if you produce the 108th defense in the country with, I'm going to guess, 4 NFL guys on it, you probably might not be asked back. And maybe, again, I don't advocate for firings, and I like Adam Fuller a great deal as a human being, as a person. I've liked hanging out with him in my time. We're not friends. I wouldn't even say we're friendly. Well, that sounds like we're enemies, but we're just not friends. We're acquaintances. But I like him as a person. I'm not advocating for his firing, but I'm advocating for something better than this because this is unacceptable. It's just lost in the wash of the horrible steamboat that is the offense. It gets kind of lost, and it's, but good grief, they're really bad too. Sorry, another rant. Can we just talk about Mastromano for the next half hour?
Sure.
Put us all in a good mood.
Real quick, so Florida State is 70th in the country in yards per play allowed at 5.6. Last year they were allowing.
Then I thought it was worse than that.
No. Last year they allowed 4.9 yards per play. So
I wonder though if you take away the Georgia game, I bet it's probably 4-4.
Right.
Like literally that is skewed so much, that one game. If you took every single, because that wasn't the Florida State team and that wasn't the defense. If you took away that one game and that ridiculousness, I bet whatever they finish in total defense, you would go up 8 spots in the rankings.
It's not going to move at all in the rankings because they're at the top. And when you're at the top, that's where you stay firmly planted as the corner pocket bar and grill, everybody. Tallahassee, Florida. CPTallybar.com. Daily lunch specials, Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., only $8.99. But how about that happy hour, everybody? 4 to 7 p.m.?
Yeah.
Who loves you? 3-hour window for happy hour weekdays, and then all day Sunday.
That's right.
During the NFL, everybody, it's happy hour all day Sunday. And don't forget tomorrow night, or tonight as you're listening to the podcast that's recorded off of this version. Bingo. Win cash. 2, 4. How many rounds are up for grabs out there again, Corey?
That's 4, buddy. That's 4. $250 a pop if you win. You might have to split it with someone if y'all both yell bingo at the same time. But yeah, there's $1,000 on the line if you're there. And shout out to Buy Steph a Drink. That's our trivia team name. We won on Tuesday, which we don't do that a ton, so that felt good. And I want to shout out one more thing. There's the Corey wrap right there. Get it without the tomato, though. Remember, without the tomato.
You got to give it a nickname like
C-Dub.
In-N-Out's got animal style. You got to get like the Corey wrap something style, and that's shorthand for like.
Oh yeah, okay. I'll come up with something. The hardcore, like the hardcore way.
Yeah.
Don't tell the waitresses you want the Corey wrap hardcore. That they're not going to know what that means. But I was going to say, I don't sell the Sunday experience enough because if you're an NFL fan, and there are a lot of them in Tallahassee, they do a wonderful job. They have a Vegas wall that has 8 separate TVs on it, and they make sure each TV is on a different game. So you will not have to be asking somebody, hey, where are the Chiefs, or where are the Seahawks, or where are the Lions? There will be a TV on one of those games. Fish, the bartender there, does an incredible job. It's like he was born to do it, of making sure every game is on multiple TVs. So there's multiple ways to view your favorite team. Bill, you don't get better than this, man. You don't get better spokesman than this.
No. SL Paint 1, I never get to watch live, but a rare chance tonight. Thank you guys for all you both do.
Thank you. Thank you for watching.
We appreciate that. Brett Taylor says, I'm old. I don't have much longer to live. Be nice to me. Sorry, Corey with an E.
There we go. Thanks, Brett.
Let's go
Brett's
to
not
Corey.
an old man's name.
Yeah, Corey's got an E as well. Man, where's my soundboard? Corey Bates, I failed you. I'll make it up in a second. Corey Clark, what are you going to do if Florida State wins out? Miami looks beatable. We beat them when we were 3-6 in 2021. Also, will you guys speak on the LOI news?
Thank you, Corey. Miami is beatable. I just not by an awful offense. You're going to have to score in the 30s. That's what Virginia Tech did. That's what Cal did very early in the second half of that game and then just decided to stop. You are not going to beat Miami with like 19 points. Not with this defense I was just yapping about. And that's why I just don't think it's in the cards, because unless we see something incredible in Durham, some switches flipped, I don't expect this offense to be good enough to outscore Miami or even get into the 30s, to even approach the 30s, because I've watched these 6 games. But they do look beatable. They're definitely gettable. I just don't think Florida State has the horses to do it this year. And then the LOI news, Aslan, can you speak on that? Like, explain what it is. They got rid of it, right? They got rid of the national letter of intent, which is what's kind of ruled the scholarship world for, I don't know, my whole life, more than my whole life. And it is now you just sign a financial waiver, right?
I have not dove into it, Corey. I'm sorry to let you down there. I just saw that they're basically taking away National Signing Day away from us because there isn't this whole pomp and circumstance around signing that NLI and faxing.
Well, you remember like when Dalvin didn't technically sign a letter of intent. He signed a financial aid agreement.
Yes.
And that's why Jimbo could talk about him, because he did. That's just what it will be now. I don't know that it's going to have a huge difference. I think the one thing I did read that kind of caught my eye was that as soon as somebody says, starting in whenever the portal opens, or maybe even before that, I'm not sure, there's no like day you have to wait. As soon as you're ready to commit and sign, at least for the portal, Asla, we should have done a little more research on this. A great question, Corey. That's our bad. You then sign, and you're committed. You're signed to that school. You're enrolled in that school, and then it says once you've signed that paperwork, all the other schools are supposed to stop recruiting you, much like an NIL. It's not an NIL. Sorry, I get the acronyms confused these days. Much like an LOI. Once you signed your letter of intent, that was it. Your recruitment was over. It's supposed to be the same way with this, but I don't know how that's going to be enforced. So we'll see what that ends up being and looking like.
I mean, he gave us $10 in the jar. I could have just ignored the last part, but that's not how I roll. Appreciate it, Corey Bates and Corey Clark, for the answer.
Yeah, what a great one though. We'll get back to it, man, because it is something that could be a really seismic shift. Or I don't think it will be. But
how so? I mean, Corey Bates, what are your thoughts on the LOI news? How do you see it changing the college sports landscape?
Are you asking me?
No, the Corey Bates.
Oh, the other Corey. Yeah.
Just
people in the chat let me know. I didn't get a chance because I was writing. I didn't get a chance to really read up on it as much as I would like. But when the House, we'll see what happens, because I know they, whatever that stupid House thing is, where they're supposed to put a cap on NIL and the scholarship limits are going up and all that stuff. That was, it wasn't, let's say, written into law, but it took another step towards getting there yesterday. We'll see if that continues to go, though.
Let's go to Island Chief. By the way, this one's for you too, Corey Bates. Thank you, guys. $10 in the jar, Island Chief, as well. 6 games in. Who are the lead on this team? Leaders.
Island, we know you mean leaders. Thank you. I'm going to say Brock Glenn. And that's not great. Now, he might end up being a great leader, but it's not great that the kid that's only started 3 games in his career, and first 2 did not go well. Well, this one on Saturday night didn't go great either. I think he has, how about this? He has the potential to be a leader.
Okay.
DJ clearly didn't, not just with his play, but just, if his play was better, it would have helped, but his demeanor, there was nothing screaming leadership from him. And is there one on defense? I think Cryer can be a guy. I'd like Azarie to be that guy, but it doesn't seem to be part of his personality. I think he's probably your best player, but him or Farmer, but it doesn't seem to be in either one of their personalities to be the real vocal rah-rah guys. And not even rah-rah, like the guys that will get on to their teammates. They don't seem to have a lot of that.
Yeah. They don't.
Mastromano should be the leader. You know what I mean? Like, guys, are you kidding me? Are you watching what I'm doing every week?
Yeah, I think Brock could do it. But yeah, defensively I think Farmer might try, but I don't think it's got to come from a certain space that I don't know he, floats around in enough to consistently be the guy that holds you accountable like that. And that's a bummer, man. Like you brought Darius Washington, who you admitted as the head coach does not like to talk.
Yeah.
You brought him, Patrick Payton, and Joshua Farmer as your representatives at ACC kickoff. And our minds do not go towards any of those guys. Not that you're supposed to bring, quote unquote leaders. But that's kind of what people bring. Maybe that was the whole statement, I guess, was Miami brought a bunch of transfers and negatively recruited against you and said, all you do is your transfer you. So you decide to bring in guys that you organically grassroots recruited and developed and made them into all ACC caliber players. But when the light is on them, man, they don't like to step in front of it and grab the microphone and do the things. And that's fine, man. Like I'm not knocking the kids. Either you want to do that or you don't. Like I had no problem getting in front of a teleprompter and reading the news. And somebody like, how do you do that? That's terrifying. I'm like, it's really not.
Well, and you're a leader.
I'm not a leader, but just
I would say Shaheem also is somebody we haven't mentioned that has that in him. He just hasn't made the plays necessarily. And he hasn't been bad. It's not like Shaheem's been awful. I assume he leads them in tackles because somebody has to. And he does play aggressive at times, but he hasn't made the game-changing plays. He's not an All-American. And he got suspended for a game. So there's just not there's not a lot of great candidates for that for that role, but maybe they're here, man. I do think that I think some of the young guys, it would be, I think some of the young guys, like the skill guys, could be that dude. But it might start with Brock Glenn. We'll see. Our Cromanhawk, our Trevor, one of y'all.
Brett Taylor says Corey Rapp, no blood.
There you go. It's perfect.
That's good. I like that. Somebody says they dated a corner pocket bar girl.
Let's not go.
We won't pop it up on the screen here. All right. So apparently, according to the NCAA's release, transfer prospects with the NLI stuff may be signed by a new school once their names are into the portal. After a prospect signs a written offer of athletics aid, which is what Corey referred to as Dalvin having signed, which allowed Jimbo to personally talk about him while he was at Disneyland. Before they played Oregon in the national semifinal. Once the prospect signs that written offer of athletics aid, other schools that offer athletic-related financial aid will be prohibited from recruiting communications with that prospect.
Okay.
So that's perfect. I guess the big wrinkle. Once you accept our money, you're ours. I guess it's almost like free agency kind of, right? Like,
but is it just for transfer prospects? It's not for high school recruits. Because think about what it would do for the sport if as soon as a high school kid committed, he was able to sign those papers.
I think it applies to everybody. I didn't read the entire graph. I kind of went into the middle of it and pulled that line. I probably shouldn't.
Well, the portal thing, the transfers isn't that big a deal. It's always been a kind of tight window anyway. The bigger deal would be, and we don't know this, and I'm not saying it's true, is if high school recruits didn't have to wait till December. Once they committed, I'm just thinking, I'm spitballing here, like maybe like a kid that's out at Colorado now. If he had signed an aid agreement where nobody else could recruit him, back in August of that year, then maybe he would be at Florida State right now, or the safety at Georgia, or go on and on down the line. I wonder, that would be an enormous shift if a high school kid, once he committed and could sign, then he's unrecruitable after that. But why would that be? Because I don't think that would. I
shouldn't say I think we're a news show, but I can't say it 100% sure.
The previous formula for determining signing dates will be applied to those written offers. Transfer prospects may be signed by a new school,
which is fine. Once their names enter, once you enter the portal, you can be.
Yeah, that's all about transferring. Looks like.
Okay.
I think that's just for transfers. I wish they would do it for the high school kids, so those kids wouldn't have to be committing, decommitting, recommitting, re-decommitting for the final 4 months of their high school careers.
Tony Greco brings up a good point. Well, how do we know the young offensive line cannot play? They sat Brock behind DJ, so I do not trust this staff.
Well, let's slow down on Brock, but that's a fair point, Tony. Let's see how Brock does. That was certainly, I think, a better played game than anything we saw from DJ, but I'm not going to say that Brock is absolutely 100% better than him yet. Give me another probably 2 drives in Durham, and I'll probably be on board with that. And that's a fair question. Like I wonder if you play somebody for 3 years and he's your guy, man. Can you imagine Alex Atkins benching Maurice Smith? You know what I mean? Is that something he would do? And it's a fair question. Because I hope it's something he would do.
They're at that point, Corey. They're right at that point, man.
Because his head coach is about to have to make a decision whether to stay with him, even though he's been here 5 years. So he better give his head coach the best chance to win by maybe not just being loyal, because loyalty, you're too loyal, and then all of a sudden you're out of a job. So, and I'm not trying to pick on Maurice Smith. I don't know if they have anybody better at center. Alex Atkins clearly doesn't think they do. They didn't develop anyone. They have no options. They haven't had any options at that position. That's you're right. They might be able to play. They might be better than what we're seeing. It's odd that they won't even take a chance. But and at this point, what harm would it be to play a bunch of young guys on the offensive line?
Always kind of tough talking about this because I feel like I vacillate on it way too much. And that is Cool Creation saying, if you could get Mike's ear to show him the importance of high school recruiting and not solely portal, would you advise him to sink next 2 years into development since he has job security due to a massive buyout? Because listen, I would love to sign Jeremiah Smith. I would love to have a class that was Jeremiah Smith and Reuben Bain and all these guys they finished runner-up for, or third place for. Because they're after high-end talent. They're not ignoring blue chip prospects. Now, I don't know if they're not budgeting as much money towards high school as they are transfer portal. I mean, you might be saying obviously they are, as long as they keep getting transfer portal guys. I mean, makes sense logically, but I don't know with 100% certainty to say that. But I just wonder, and I know, Corey, we're going to disagree on this because you're probably, your pie chart's 99% money, 1% everything else.
That's not true, but it's the money is the biggest part of the pie chart for sure.
Yeah. I've been concerned about whether or not he can connect with that level of athlete consistently enough to get enough in a class year after year after year, to stack 3 good classes on top of each other, like Mario's kind of doing right now. And I don't want to I don't have Mario envy or Miami envy or anything crazy like that, but it's easy to be yeah, man, invest everything you can in high school recruiting. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to win out and get those kids. And then what if they don't work out? What if you go in the 5 stars that doesn't end up working out and you invested all this money? But clearly, Corey, maybe one more year of this where they can go into the portal and try to get instant plug and play reloads, but there's going to have to be that point where they only get 7 guys because they've got guys in the pipeline that they've developed and they know they've got a really good sense can get it done.
Yeah, yes, for sure. I do think they can scale back from the 15 or 16 that they had. It's such a unique it's been such a unique journey for him here. He obviously had to go to the portal when it first opened up because he had no talent left for him, and he was having a hard time recruiting high school talent because of the position that Florida State was in then. And then when you would think he'd be bringing in pretty big time classes after the 22 and 23 seasons, they weren't coming together as great recruiting classes, but they were pretty good, but they weren't great. And you need great. At the same time, you're going into 2024 after a 13-0 season. You just got snubbed. If you don't hit the portal hard, you're thinking this is what's going to happen. Like it is happening anyway. I know in hindsight, we're like, well, you should have just not given any of these guys any money. You could have gone 1-5 without them. But the point being, they didn't think this was even a possibility once they hit the portal that hard. They were aiming, I think, for another 9 or 10 win season with some good, not great college football players. And they continued to stock the pipeline. What has happened is they missed on so many of them, or those guys have underperformed, or they were underevaluated, whatever it is, that can you afford after a 3-9 season to not bring in another big portal class and go 3-9 again? How are you going to recruit the players you want? Jeremiah Smith, I can promise you, unless you pay him $8 million, the Jeremiah Smiths of the world are not going to come play at a school that just went 3-9 back-to-back years. That doesn't happen unless you give them a ton of money, and that's one kid, and you've got to pay a lot of kids. So it's a weird, and then it's like, okay, so next year he decides, because it's a fair point from Cool Creations that he does have job security. He's like, next year we're only bringing in 5 portal guys. I'm going to let these guys take their lumps. And it's like, okay, they took their lumps. They go 4-8, 5-7. There's no guarantee that those guys are going to end up being great players because you don't recruit well enough to do this, I guess. You know what I mean? You haven't proven you recruiting enough elite talent from the high school ranks for this to be a real blueprint of success. Now, yes, if they just decided we're not getting any portal guys, we're not spending any money on the portal guys, you still have to pay for retention of the guys on your roster now, and you got to go pay big money for high school recruits that, as we all know, especially on the line of scrimmage, aren't going to help you for a year and a half. And that's a lot of money to invest into some big-time talent that might not help you at all in 2025 when you desperately need a better season. So it's an interesting time. It's a fair question. It's a fair point, and I don't know which way they're going to go. But I don't think they want to risk following up 3-9 with something like another 3-9. But then again, they went to the portal last year and look what it got them. So I don't know. It's a fair question though. He does have job security. He can take that risk to try to build from the high school ranks, but he better start signing a lot better classes than he's been signing.
I can't say this with 1,000 degrees certainty.
All right.
But
what about 100?
Who's the last Florida State player to start at center before Maurice Smith?
David Castillo?
Close.
Clay Shiver.
Clay Shiver.
Was it Clay Shiver? Wow.
So
Brady Scott, did Brady Scott ever play center?
I don't have that. What I think it's going to be is that going back and looking at 2020, Maurice started 8 out of those 9 games. Guess which game he didn't start? Actually, I'm sorry. 2020. Well, it doesn't.
The North Carolina game?
No, Jacksonville State.
Oh, okay. All right.
They won that one.
Yeah.
The person that did start that game in 2020 at center for the Noles was Andrew Baselli.
Oh, yeah. There you go. That's the answer. Yeah. He might have started some at 19 too. Wow.
No, you know who did? I think it might have done 19. It was Big Baby. Remember him?
Big Baby. Yeah. He played some center, I think. Yeah. Buddy.
Deion Johnson. Yeah.
It's crazy.
I want to pull this question up here. I can't be bought. So let's chill out, Eric Baker. I just don't trust Mike, says Eric Baker. His decision-making, play calling, recruiting, evaluating are subpar. I get that you guys like him as a person. I admitted I don't like him as a person. I'm kidding. I like him as a person. It's, whatever. I get that you guys like him as a person because he lets you attend practice, but he's not a good coach.
So, Eric, I would say this, and this is with all due respect. You didn't send us this question last year at this time. Why is that? So did you trust him then? And I get it. Like, I don't trust him either right now. But
I do. But yeah.
But I mean, how could anybody have? Let me put it another way. I don't have 100% confidence that he is going to turn this around. I just don't. How could you? He's put together an all-time horrible product. So there is no absolute certainty that he is going to turn it around. But I mean, last year he was 13-0 and should have been in the playoff. So he does do some things right. Like that wasn't a dream. That did happen. The 19-game winning streak did happen. And you can say, yeah, he had better players. Well, he was the one that got him here. So he can definitely put together a good team. I would not go so far as to say he's not a good coach. There aren't many guys that have 19-game winning streaks that aren't a good coach or get their former team to a Cotton Bowl. So he's proven he can do it, whether he lets us attend practice or not. He's proven he can be a good coach. He clearly sucked this year, and starting last December has been an abomination. But let's just hope it's a blip. But yeah, man, I get it. I don't like. There's nothing to like. There's nothing to even hold on to and be like, absolutely, this guy's going to get it done, because it's so bad right now. But I would just say that 19-game winning streak isn't that far in the rearview mirror. It might feel like it's 1,000 miles away. It literally was happening this time last year as we were talking. So I think he can coach. He's made some horrible mistakes. And if this thing next year looks anything like this year, I'm going to be right there with you saying that I don't trust him. I'm not saying he's got my 100% trust, because how could he after a season like this? But he did build up some trust by taking them out of an enormous hole that this program was left in, and 3 or 4 years later being on a 19-game winning streak. That does take some coaching ability. He is not just the luckiest person in the world. And right now he's not the unluckiest person in the world. His team sucks, and it has a lot to do with him.
Football fans, when you arrive in Tallahassee for the November 2nd game against North Carolina, dub, write it in ink. Plan for a pit stop at the Whataburger Touchdown Tour as it comes to Florida State. Power up your game day menu and stop by the Whataburger food truck during your tailgate. Get ready to watch your team by securing an easy W before kickoff. But again, there'll be a W on the field, guaranteed. With a hot, fresh Whataburger. And no matter who comes out on top when you take your squad to Whataburger, you know you'll have the feeling of being a winner by getting your food made your way, fresh and hot, every day, all day. See you at the game before Florida State, North Carolina. Sorry, everybody. Goofed. My bad. Not their fault. Aslan's fault. We'll see you at Whataburger. Food truck location will be determined. Stay tuned for details.
We got Whataburger as a sponsor now? All right. Things are picking up. I don't know what kind of season y'all are having. Oh, Wake Up Warchant's going through the roof. And I want to go back to, I think it was Eric. I wasn't trying to be, I was. I didn't mean to be that rude. It sounded more rude than I meant it to sound. I don't like Mike Norvell because he lets us watch practice. I think it's ridiculous that we're the only beat in the country that gets to watch practice. In fact, this year, I kind of wish he hadn't let us watch practice, because we wouldn't have been taking so many arrows when they turned out to be one of the worst teams in the country. So that's all on Norvell too. So, but yeah, no, I like him because he's always the same person at practice. We get to watch that. He is the same person. And frankly, I like him selfishly because of what the last 2 years were. And because he got them out of that hole. And they went 13-0 and should have been in the playoff and won the ACC. I never really mentioned that, and I should, because it's been a long time since they've done that. That's why I like him, because he proved to be a good coach. He is not proven to be elite, though, because the elite ones don't have seasons like this, in my opinion. This is again, abomination. Please, Mike, figure it out.
Eric, apparently you've never seen the way he looks at me when I ask him a question, or the way his voice inflection changed when I ask him a question. So I'm not the fan club president at all, but just looking at this like piece by piece, like,
well, no, he's definitely not the fan club president of the Aslan fan club.
That's true. Like. Yeah.
I think you like him. Days. I actually think he does like you a little bit, but I think you like him more than he likes you. It's close.
All right. So like decision making, honestly, like, I don't like all the fourth down stuff. I'm not the aggressive guy. I like taking points. I think I would have taken points against Georgia Tech in the second drive of the game, which I know sounds crazy because it was going to be a 52-yard field goal. But not other than like the actual decision against Clemson in the first half of that game, where again, we went over in like the Monday or the Tuesday episode where it's like, you're going to have 30 seconds left and you had to go 75 yards with this horrible offense. And you gave them 3 more points. But I just feel like he is going to continue to coach this team. He's going to he's willing them, like, listen, I don't call them losers, but like, you underperforming people, you need to perform at my level. Like, get on my level. We're going to get this done.
I'm not stooping to your level and completely changing the way I call a game. I would like him to. The part of coaching is adapting to your personnel and the team you're coaching, not the team you want, but the team you have. But yeah, there's only been 2 this year. That one against Clemson. And again, what did it matter? And then
him always being like an optimist, he probably thinks like, man, 2 plays and we'll at least be in field goal range and get the points back. And then maybe a third play.
Or our horrible defense might give them 3 points and close to 7. He doesn't think like that.
I'm a little bit contrarian on this. But
I agree with you, though. That's exactly what he is thinking. And there's a beauty in it, kind of. It's naivete, but there's some beauty in it that he still believes in his guys. He said it 2 weeks ago, like he's the eternal optimist. He always sees the best in people. He thinks Williamson's going to make those catches. He just believes in people. He thinks that offensive line is finally going to move someone out of the way or keep somebody from hitting his quarterback. Although I should say, there were times on Saturday night where I thought the O-line gave Brock good protection.
They did.
I mean, there were. They're not just getting run through like a turnstile back in the DeAndre days. But overall, obviously, they're not performing well. But yeah, I think he believes so much in his guys that it's a fault. 90% of it is great, and it's a positive. There's 10% of that belief that turns out to be a fault because he thought they could get off the field. He thought they'd somehow do something with the ball. And there was another fourth down he went for. I don't remember what game. Oh, it's the game that must have been the BC game where DJ threw the interception on fourth down that got returned to the 6 and basically ended the game. Where it was like crazy. He went for that. But those are the only 2 real decisions that I have a problem with this year. But they're all going to make weird decisions. I watch all these NFL games. These guys call the dumbest timeouts. They're the worst at clock management in the world. It's insanity, and they keep doing it.
Play calling, I don't know, man, like that, the extra point, 2-point play they ran against Georgia Tech, like that was brilliant. But then I get it. The 2-point they went for against Clemson, very unimaginative. They almost run that exclusively, it seems like, in practice, and it never works. I don't know why you think it would work against Clemson. I get it. I mean, it's, the recruiting aspect. Okay, we'll see what if Brock ends up working out? And what if Hakeem ends up being part of the core? And so does like Lawayne McCoy and Micaiah Danzy and Cam Davis.
Yeah.
So like there's some verdict stuff out on that. Evaluating, I get it, man. Like that's the thing where it's like, can you say that he's like a C grade? Because last year was an A and this year was obviously an F. So you split it down the middle. That's the thing. I don't think you can look at any of this stuff and be like, he is clearly bad at making decisions. He's clearly bad at play calling. He's clearly bad at recruiting. He's clearly bad at, like, you can't say he's clearly great at any of this stuff either, though. So I get that.
Yeah, I definitely think you could say with the evaluating, though, this year in particular has been a disaster. He has failed miserably. It's been more than subpar. It's been atrocious. Moving forward, let's hope he and the people around him evaluate who needs to be on this roster at a much higher level than they did this year. Because, again, you look at the Auburn team, Auburn really is like their offense is terrible. They keep throwing a bunch of picks, but they're in all their games, and they could have won all their games. You feel like they're unlucky to be whatever. I think they're 2-4, and one of their losses is to Georgia. So even if they'd have played well, they'd have lost that game. But even that game, it was like an 11-point game, I think, late in the second half or late in the third quarter. Auburn's kind of unlucky in a way to be 2-4. Florida State has absolutely earned this record. They have not been unlucky in any sense. They are a 1-5 football team that might be lucky to not be 0-6. Like, this is not like a couple of bounces there go their way and they're 4-2. No, man, this team, in hindsight, looking at what we've seen through these first 6 games, has been awful. And it's just, there's nothing redeeming about it, but it might turn around.
By the way, yeah, that's like all of Auburn's traditional stats. I mean, they're like top 60, they're top 70 in everything other than turnover margin. I mean, they're, listen,
Yeah, I think they're probably.
I would kill right now to be running for 165 and a half yards.
Can you imagine that? What would that look like? What would that look like? And to have only the 52nd total defense in the country, as opposed to 109 or whatever Florida State is. Yeah, it's been a disaster. In evaluating coaches, maybe you can put that on Mike along with the evaluating the players. But this. Let's see, man. Let's see. There's never been an undefeated coach coming off an undefeated season that has been challenged. You want to talk about response, Mike? This offseason is the all-time response for a head coach, a $10 million a year head coach, to prove he can do this at a high level and sustain it. Because right now, it looks like he wasn't, but it looks like he was lucky with that 19-game winning streak. Because good grief, his program is in the dumps right now. But it could turn around real quick, legitimately.
Winning the best perfume, I think a man once said. Mando whole body deodorant, maybe the best deodorant to hide your scents. Everybody, I admitted a secret on the show yesterday, Corey, when you left.
Uh-oh.
And I admitted that during the pandemic, I stopped wearing deodorant.
Oh.
And it went for like a year or 2 or 3.
Okay. That's
but
weird.
I started wearing it again.
Okay, good.
I would wear antiperspirant deodorant, which I still would sweat through, and then it would ruin all my shirts. So I'm over this stuff. So I started using just like deodorants, but they wear out so quickly. Like you have to constantly, you almost have like take it with you everywhere you go to keep reapplying. But Mando gives you 72-hour protection, everybody. I'm like on hour number 13 right now of it. I don't know if I'll ever be able to say it works for 72 hours because I like to shower every single day. But it works for your pits, privates, and
your nether regions. Your nether regions, right?
Yeah.
Your undercarriage.
Yeah. So give it a try. Go to shopmando.com. Use the promo code WARCHANT. You get $5 off a starter pack. They also have body wipes. Big fan of body wipes. When you're leaving the gym, I'm going to start. I use the body wipes like in the interim between the gym and recording the podcast. Because as I mentioned on the show, I sweat a lot when we do the pod, Corey. I get nervous for some reason. I just do.
Oh, yeah. Well, because you're working with me.
Yeah. Shopmando.com, promo code WARCHANT. All right, let's get down to the brass tacks here. Let's finish things up with some of the other questions that have come through here. Our guy Alan Chief asked, do the receivers block in practice? Yeah, they've got like a period pretty much designated to it. Like perimeter blocking stuff. But remember, I talked about it the other day. Like I counted at like 10 reps and the offense only won 3 of them.
Yeah.
So maybe stop depending on that part of the game. But I guess
it's preposterous. I would never throw that pass again the rest of the year. It has not. I would go back and look. I bet they've thrown a screen pass out wide probably 25 times this year. And I bet I can't imagine they're probably averaging 1.1 yard per play on those plays. Maybe less than that. I feel like they lose more yardage than they gain. They certainly haven't hit a 50-yard touchdown on one of those.
Jamming 2 shirts. It's our guy, I think Ben Tuchert.
Okay.
All right. Touche. Anyhow. Oh, 2 shirts. So maybe it was 2 shirt. Or 2 shirts is the way to pronounce his last name.
I would guess. Yeah, he spelled it out for us right there.
That's awesome. What will Brock's stats be by the end of the season? That's a toughie. Let me see if I can pull up what he's got right now. That's going to be, I'm terrible at math and projecting over a half season.
I'm going to say if he plays the next 6 games, he's going to average over 200 yards a game passing. So let's give him 1,400 yards passing total. Let's give him 10 touchdowns, 4 picks, maybe 5 picks. 10 touchdowns, 5 picks. I'll go 11 touchdown passes, 5 picks, 121 yards rushing, and 3 touchdowns. There you go. You don't even have to watch the games anymore, folks. Oh, and by the way, Florida State's going to lose most of those. But Brock Glenn's going to put up some yards, man. He's going to get in the end zone a few times.
Over under 5.5 passing touchdowns against teams from the state of North Carolina.
Under.
No heart.
Sorry.
I'm going over.
Sorry.
Have you seen that North Carolina defense?
Not great. Not great. But I've seen this offense. Not sure they could score over 30 if they're out there just playing by themselves. Sorry, I'm not trying. I know y'all want Corey to be this cynic, wisecracking old man, but it's just this first half of the season has broken me. I need to reset myself. And are we done, Aslan? Let's go. Let's wrap this up. I love these guys. Let's wrap it up. I want to go watch. I'm legitimately going to want to watch the Weather Channel.
By the way, our guy, that's his nickname, Two Shirts. It's pronounced Tukert. So it's spelled Teuchert. Anyways, these are the things that keep me up at night, everybody. That last question or the last comment I popped up felt a little bit subpar. Mikkel saying we've got bad coaches, bad developers of talent, very bad recruiters. We know where this road will lead if we don't make changes.
Yeah.
But it was all the same staff that won 13.
Yeah, but when you have this kind of backtrack, yes, you could. I don't think any of that's unfair. I don't know if you'd say very bad recruiters. I don't even know what that means in the age of NIL, but they're not developing it, and they're not coaching well. But I'd love for this coaching staff to prove us wrong over the next 6 weeks. But I love everyone, and I've got to go. Aslan, I'm out. All
right, let's stay there for like 15 more seconds. We're going to say goodbye. Thanks for being here, everybody. We're presented by Vitamin Energy. Go to vitaminenergy.com. Use the promo code Warchant BOGO to buy one and get one free. We're going to do a mailbag show as Corey shakes off his wife. Like, I'll be there in a sec, babe. I don't have one of those. Right. But anyway, we're done. Corey's wrapping us up. Right. Thanks for watching. Hit the thumbs up on the way out. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock. Check out vitaminenergy.com.